JD Vance being insanely racist on the timeline. I covered this yesterday. I think it's pretty insane, but totally expected that we have officially gotten to a point where like Republicans are just letting it fly. They are basically one step removed from just like openly saying the N-word, like on the timeline. I mean, because they probably do say it off the timeline. Having said that, however, we're now officially we're almost there. You know, we're almost there. We're almost there in terms of just like basically saying slurs. Like the JD Vance story was so fucking unimaginably racist, unimaginably insane, right? JD Vance appears to backtrack on false claim about Haitian migrants in Ohio. And it's like that right there, like this article right here from the New York Times, the gray lady, the paper of record, is being incredibly kind to JD Vance. So kind that it almost feels like it's a Fox News article. Like, you're the New York Times. Just say exactly what's going on. JD Vance, as an opportunistic white supremacist, ran with a false claim that Haitian migrants were stealing and eating people's pets, okay? Domesticated animals. Like, seemingly appears to backtrack from false claim about Haitian migrants in Ohio, hides the truth. It hides the truth. The truth of the matter is that there was a fake story, like email chain style fake story that your grandparents would probably believe on Facebook, okay, about a police body camera footage from Ohio, but not the place in Ohio that they're talking about where there's a lot of Haitian migrants is Canton, Ohio, was where the body camera footage was, where it was a black woman being arrested. She was having a mental health episode. She was obviously like crazy. She like stomped on the head of a cat and started eating it in front of the cops. And then they were like, this is what Haitian migrants are doing. Okay? This is what Haitian migrants are doing. Haitian migrants are stealing people's cats and eating them. And immediately, the Senate Judiciary, the GOP Judiciary Twitter account started posting about like save our ducks and our cats, AI images. Donald Trump started memeing about it. Elon Musk started memeing about it. Ted Cruz started memeing about it. Saying like, oh, vote for Donald Trump so we can stop people, you know, Haitian immigrants from stealing your cats and your ducks so they can eat them. Now, this is a career ender, okay? In any other place on the planet, that is a career ender, okay? This is when you pack it up. You're like, wow, this is incredibly, incredibly fucking racist. You probably should quit politics and maybe even quit living, okay? Like, just, you should be permanently humiliated everywhere you fucking go until you do the right thing, okay? Like, that's what should happen to you. If you are a prominent person who goes public with the insane, psychopathic, white supremacist meta, racist meme that like Haitian migrants are stealing people's pets and eating them, you should do the honorable thing, okay? And yet, we have now officially arrived at a point where this doesn't even take a blip out of your fucking political capital. Your career actually benefits from it. Your career actually benefits from repeating this racist lie, and everybody just kind of moves on because we move on to the next racist lie. This shit happened last week with Venezuelan migrant gangs overtaking apartment complexes, right? And I genuinely thought like, oh, we can't get more racist than this. I was wrong. That now, in the distance, looks like a normal story, like a oopsie, okay? Now it makes me feel like, yeah, no, I get why people could be duped by that because of how fucking insane this is. Like, these types of stories have always existed. Like, you know, Michelle Obama calls white people crackers. Like, that kind of stuff has always existed in the periphery in American politics. The difference is that was relegated to like the weirdest fucking blogs, right? Like, that wasn't that wasn't like a real that wasn't a real story that got like this much mainstream prominence, you know? John McCain is not going to fucking run around being like, yeah, Michelle Obama called white people crackers and like Barack Obama got top. Barack Obama got fucking dome from a gay man while he was smoking crack. Like those kinds of stories back in the day by old school Republican Party members who were also unimaginably racist regardless, like those kinds of stories were not presented as like a gotcha, okay? Like a real story, right? Like that wasn't a thing. And it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy that like we've officially gotten to a point where like the sane guy in the insane ticket, the VP pick for Donald Trump, who's supposed to be like the sane, you know, buttoned up guy who's at least like media trained, so we can go on, you know, Dana Bash and talk to Dana Bash with the language that liberals understand. Like that guy's like, yeah, Haitian migrants are eating cats. Like that's what he's running on. That's where we're at now. And I fear that this is not good for American political discourse, okay? Eugenics tweet about Haiti has over 7 million impressions. Haiti has an average IQ 6'7". Let's talk about what that means. With an IQ 6'7" or below, the average Haitian, like this is straight up Hitlerian politics, okay? This is fake eugenicist bullshit, okay? IQ, if you know anything about IQ, you already know that it is not a valid metric for anything, okay? People who place a lot of emphasis on IQ in terms of like how successful you will be in society or how productive of a member you will be in society, unironically have low fucking IQ, okay? That's the only reliable metric for IQ. If you start talking about IQ, and if you're like, oh, dude, it's the most valuable, most reliable way to figure out if someone is going to be successful, now I know you have low IQ. Ironically enough, it still doesn't matter, but what that determines for me is that you're a stupid person, okay? IQ is malleable, okay? The way you take the test, and also how much nutrition you have is going to greatly change the output, okay? Studies have been conducted in India during times of famine and the same population size when they're actually well fed. Their IQ point differential is like 10 to 20 points. That's a massive swing. Nutrition and education play a phenomenal role. It's not like some genetic predetermined value in the way that these fucking psychopathic eugenicists try to advocate for. Okay? That's it. So anyone and everyone that tries to fucking talk about like IQ as this like very important metric for a success is 1,000,000% like teetering on the edges of associating themselves with like Nazi ideology. Okay? The old eugenicist assumptions are familiar, that the population is overall stupid and underserving, and that there is a worthy minority defined against the stupid majority, that the methods of discriminating the worthy from the unworthy are objective and quantitative, despite its racist and ableist nature of the test grading system, and that there is no need to consider systematic oppression ongoing or historical. Yarding cats. Like, this is the precursor to scientific racism. For those of you who don't know what scientific racism is what was the precursor to Nazi ideology. It was a way to try and justify racial superiority and racial inferiority. Okay, that's, you know, most prominent in the all the way up until the early 1900s, but all the way up until like the 1920s in the United States of America. And obviously post World War II, people were like, ugh, this is definitely not smart. This is definitely not a good idea. And not because it's like some secret science that like woke libtards are too afraid to parse through. It's just bullshit. Okay? That's it. Because it was fucking bullshit. And there are a million different examples of how it's bullshit, like all the way from measuring black people's skull density to try to figure out phrenology, to try to figure out why they were servile. Like, it was always a post hoc rationalization for why black people must be a different type and subhuman, a different type of of thing, a different type of like living being that actually is better off being enslaved. That is what the ultimate reason for scientific racism was. Okay? And if you want to get into it, obviously, pre-chattel slavery didn't work in the same fucking way that chattel slavery worked. Obviously, there was not like generational slavery in that same regard. Chattel slavery obviously accelerated this process and made it significantly worse, which is why historians hold it as a separate thing. And in an effort to justify chattel slavery, Western nations had to come up with a different reason as to why you can make a group of people permanently servile and justify it. That's where the basis of racism comes from. That's where the basis of white supremacy comes from. I don't want to fucking dive into it too much, but ultimately all of that is still associated with this scientific racism of the early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s. And it is complete fucking bullshit. It is utter nonsense. The association of like any kind of genetic predetermination for success with IQ is completely ridiculous and oftentimes mostly advanced by racist fucking idiots who ironically would probably have very low IQ or at least like what they think low IQ represents. Well, they ironically represent that. Okay. Leisure Miller made a great video about this a while back, calling out all the horrible backgrounds of that narrative in eugenics. Okay. The racist subplots are the precursors to the mass deportation camps. Yeah. So this guy is obviously fucking making this argument in an effort to be like, if your IQ is low, then you have a predetermined slot in society in terms of the workforce. He says IQ 67 or below, the average Haitian over half of the country would be considered too disabled to be eligible for the death penalty. Someone at this level will struggle to understand the cause and effect of basic things. By the way, that's fucking insane to say, because if we know anything, we know that like America loves executing mentally disabled black people. So that part is also wrong. Every part of this argument is wrong. Okay. So, you know, this motherfucker is not keeping up with the Supreme Court. Okay. There is no like eligibility of mental disability for the fucking death penalty. The Supreme Court routinely votes in favor of executing people with intellectual disabilities and beyond. So yeah, at one standard deviation up from 67, we have an IQ of 82. Around 1 in 6 Haitians are intelligent enough to be a below average janitor. Again, associating IQ with like your destiny, your predetermined like slot in society. At 2 SD standard deviation, we're at 97. Roughly average intelligence in America. Around 2% of Haitians will be as intelligent as your average high school classmate. It could be clerical workers or cooks. I mean, this is literally just like a straight up. This is literally just Nazi shit. Okay, just letting you guys know. And ironically enough, this is Nazi shit. And these people, much like Hitler originally thought that he had this racial superiority and routinely found out that he did not, that the Aryan race was not inherently superior. What I find really funny about this situation as well is that like, dog, you are such a fucking racist that legitimately believes that there is racial inferiority amongst like Haitian migrants that are coming in, that you are duped like a child, okay? Like a baby, okay? Because racism, white supremacy makes you dumber, okay? You automatically assume that you have some kind of racial superiority and that there's some kind of racial inferiority, okay? So then you automatically are a dumber person than the average human being, okay? Who does not have these values. And that's the reason why you will find yourself routinely duped like this. Okay? Like what? Who the fuck is falling for this story? You have to be an actual fucking baboon brain dipshit to be like, oh, Haitian migrants, like, I'm sure they're eating cats. Like, you're a fucking idiot. You're an idiot. You're a racist idiot. This racist idiot is running for president. Or vice president. In the last few weeks, my office has received many inquiries from actual residents of Springfield who've said their neighbors' pets or local wildlife were abducted by Haitian migrants. It's possible, of course, that all these rumors will turn out to be false. Do you know what's confirmed? That a child was murdered by a Haitian migrant who had no right to be here. That local health services have been overwhelmed. That communicable diseases like TB and HIV have been on the rise. That local schools have struggled to keep up with newcomers who don't know English. that rents have risen so fast that many Springfield families can't afford to put a roof over their head. One thing that I used to talk about so frequently with Sweden was the anger and resentment that like the average Swede had towards immigrants, Muslims. The very same arguments that you're hearing about like Haitian migrants eating fucking, pets and stuff, that's existed in Europe for quite some time. Early on by some of the most unimaginably racist Hitlerian types, and then later by the average person, right? Because that's usually how racism goes if left unchecked. What's really interesting is that like a lot of the Swedish reactionary movement directly started as a consequence of austerity and actually started before Muslim refugees started coming to Sweden by larger quantities. And that's what's really interesting. And the same principle exists here as well. Economic instability and economic volatility born out of economic inequality and austerity creates an environment where people feel anger and resentment. People see the inequality. They get angry about it. They're upset about their conditions being shitty. And then they turn around and they look for a villain. And right-wingers slot that shit in so easily. Okay? They slot it in so easily. What I'm talking about is austerity that far predates even the war on terror in Sweden. Okay? The war on terror and its understandable, inevitable consequence of having like more Muslim refugees go to Europe because of the destabilization of the region. And what's really interesting about this entire process is that like nowadays people don't even think about that. They literally just like made false associations, and every problem that they experienced in society they attributed to refugees. Okay? All the while their welfare state started crumbling and got worse and worse over time because nobody was actually associating the issues with the underlying material inequalities. And that's how capital owners fucking steal. That's how they run your pockets, okay? That's how they steal your money. You're too busy thinking this guy that looks different than me must have some weird underlying scary purpose for being here, and he doesn't have the same interest that I have in terms of like, having a normal life. And I'm feeling all of this anger and resentment, this hostility, because the conditions are worse than they were 10 years ago. And it must be the scary brown people. That is the reason why shit sucks. See? And that's precisely the reason why you have people who still do this. 85% of rapes and homicides in Sweden are done by illegals or recent refugees. There are a dozen Swedish papers on this. It's obvious if you live here. That is completely false. That is completely false, and yet it does not matter. I haven't looked at the recent rape statistics in Sweden, but I do know that one of the things that Swedish right-wingers, straight up fucking Nazis, used to do back in the day would claim that it was actually immigrants that were doing all the rapes, and then you would look at the immigrants, and it wasn't actually refugees. It wasn't actually Muslim refugees. They meant immigrants as in like people that fucking came from other European nations. They would just like add all of that into the fucking pile and then still lie about the statistics beyond that. And that's what's really crazy about this. Man's just straight up lying, lol, I'm Swedish. Yeah. That's what's really fucking crazy about it. Overall, it just kind of like takes away the responsibility from the Volk, from the in-group, right? Like they're not doing the fucking rapes and murders. Like, come on now, it's gotta be fucking migrants. And it's like, no, dog. It's your fucking neighbor. It's probably you, as a matter of fact. If you got this kind of fucking attitude, I wouldn't be shocked if you were also a fucking rapist on top of that. Anyway, like the rape statistics like increasing in Sweden, right? Exploding, skyrocketing in Sweden was a consequence of the Swedish government determining rape differently, logging each instance of sexual assault, not as one, but each individual sexual assault, if done over a long period of time, by like a couple, you know what I mean? If someone is in an abusive relationship as like individual stats, that actually all of a sudden spiked the rape statistics, okay? Sexual assault statistics. But psychopathic right-wingers in Sweden immediately used that as an opportunity to shit on Muslims. They were like, I mean, this was so commonplace. Fucking PewDiePie talked about it. All the way back in, I believe, 2016, PewDiePie was on a fucking podcast being like, yeah, these dumb right wingers are like fucking lying about like, a change in the statistics in Sweden in the way that like rape is determined, and attributing it falsely to like Muslims because they just hate like refugees. Have you heard about Malmo? You can't be Jewish there. Muslims beat you crazy. Okay, dog. Yeah, no-go zones. That was another one. Here's Kamala Harris bragging about giving amnesty to thousands of Haitian migrants. If you're a reporter or an activist who didn't give a shit about these suffering Americans until yesterday, I have some advice. Spare your outrage for your fellow citizens suffering under Kamala Harris's policies. Be outraged at yourself for letting it happen. In short, don't let the crybabies and media dissuade you, you fellow patriots. Keep the cat memes flowing. How do right-wingers get away with near-perfect framing of our socioeconomic problem on the left? Someone who is going to save them from said problems do not even come close to a good framing. It's because moneyed interests are organized, okay? It's much easier to organize a couple people with a lot of money and then design society in a way that churns out more of this structure, okay? Moneyed interests are the ones who are funding colleges, funding think tanks, funding politicians. This happens all around the fucking world. And the media that is also obviously interested in corporations, interested in the bottom line of corporations, will follow the money and will create this cycle of misinformation. And things are, I think, legitimately getting fucking worse, okay? Things are getting worse overall. Why are Nazis here hate watching? I mean, dude, that's every day. Propaganda is so obvious. Why do people fall for it? Because it's comfortable. If you are a stupid person, it's a comfortable narrative. It's a narrative that you probably have in your mind. You're predisposed to tribalism, okay? And it's a reliable and very comfortable fucking narrative. It's crazy that like the New York Times acted like JD Vance backtracked when he literally said, keep the cat memes flowing, by the way. I don't even think it's that obvious for them to be fair. It reinforces certain beliefs. People are incredibly susceptible to one singular powerful anecdote massaged in a certain way. Jay Mershon, thank you for this update. This is a great example, okay? The child that was killed by Haitian migrants that Vance is referring to was a child that was killed in a literal fucking bus accident where many more children were harmed. It's so sad to hear, but it's not like the Haitian man was trying to kill this kid. Like, he dropped that in there as though this person, like, deliberately killed a fucking white baby, right? This scary Haitian migrant came into America to kill a white child, right? And if you already have that kind of, if you have that racist dog in you, right, then you agree. You're like, oh yeah, he must have done that. The interesting part about this is that, and I repeated this before, like we haven't even gotten to this side of the conversation, but even if there was a Haitian migrant who came into the United States of America, was like deeply mentally ill and very violent and ended up killing someone, and it literally in the process said like, I want to kill white people, that's why I came here, okay? If you attribute that to the entirety of a fucking population of people, like if you look at that and go, oh, every Haitian migrant is like that, you're a fucking racist, dog. That's it. And the easiest way to comprehend that is, the easiest way to understand that is by like, when you see a white guy, okay, go to a fucking school and shoot an entire school up, okay, and kill a bunch of children and teachers, you don't go, every white guy's doing this, because white people are the in group. They are the dominant group in the social hierarchy, okay, because whiteness is a concept that changes over time and ultimately is like even the fact that people are memeing right now and go, I do now. No, you don't. You're white, dumbass. More than half of you motherfuckers are white. We're having a serious conversation. Obviously, the reason why you can meme about it with this in this way is because white people are the dominant in group. Many of you are saying that, and you are white. Okay? Do you look in the mirror and go, "Oh, I'm about to do a fucking mass shooting"? No, shut the fuck up. What are you even talking about, dude? I don't think this is that difficult of a concept to parse through. Okay? When you see a white person, when you see a white man do a heinous crime, you don't attribute that crime to the entirety of the white male population. Okay? When you see a man do a fucking heinous crime, you don't attribute that to the entirety of the male population. Men are responsible for like 90% of fucking violent crimes. You don't go, oh, it's just men. You know? Maybe some do, but we make fun of those people. That's a ridiculous way to fucking approach society, okay? So that's something that you have to consider. Okay? Yeah, stereotyping and generalizing. A lot of people literally do that. Yes, but obviously it doesn't fucking hit the same when you're doing that to a non-marginalized population that is the majority, that whiteness is defined by proximity to fucking power and proximity to blackness. Okay? So, like, you can get away with memeing in that direction, and most people will think you're a fucking little crybaby if someone fucking corrects you on that and goes, whoa, what are you talking about? Why are you being racist to white people? Okay? Do you understand? Do you get it? And under a patriarchal construct, obviously, men are the dominant force as well. So in that similar regard, it's akin to saying, oh, you're being anti-straight. You're doing, anti-het behavior. Okay? Obviously, these two things are not the same. But this is besides the point. We're having a serious conversation about the way most people analyze certain situations, okay? JD Vance, there's a meme about him fucking a couch. You don't think every white man fucks a couch, right? It's just not how it works.